later years, I know that Georgine's sister would take the boys. They all went to school in the morning. I'd set the table in the kitchen and get things out for toast and all those things in the morning and make George's lunch. And then if they were going to have cooked cereal, he could do that. If there was dry cereal, then they'd put that out. And then the girls could finish. So that, and I laid their clean clothes, one on each chair for the boys, so that they knew that was their clothes. Nobody had to go hunting for them. I did that every night.
Oh, that was nice.
Yeah, so that when they got up in the morning, I might find pajamas hanging there when I come home.
Because that's where they got dressed, right there.
Yeah. So when they got, as long as they were fed and clean and could go to school, and the girls had to be sure that they ate and that their hair was combed and, that.
Because they were old enough to look after them by then.
Let's see.
And then you were home by the time they got...
Oh, I had to be home, or Jackie never come in the house.
Oh, that's right.
No.
He was too afraid to be in the house alone?
Well, he would never go in.
Even if his other brothers and sisters were in?
Oh, yeah, then he'd go.
Oh,
but he'd open the door and he'd holler, "Ma," because he knew the kids were at school. And if I didn't answer, he wouldn't go in. So that's how that was. And then, of course, when Mom stayed with us, then, of course, he'd go in. No problem.
So you just worked at Boeing, but you did other small jobs.
I stayed in the cafeteria for 18 years.
But you did side jobs, like for the guy that, with the rug?
Yeah, well, he was kind of in charge of the Boeing cafeteria. He was kind of the owner in a way.
Oh, so
they rented, would lease it out something. So when Mr. Bolts come around, why, he was the guy I supposed to give me the paycheck. I don't know.
So Mr. Bolts was the one with the rug that would call you girly?
Yeah.
Oh.
He said, "Is it straight? Is it straight?"
So when he had things going on in other places, he'd want you to come work there too?
Oh, yeah. I could work 7 days a week. But you can't do that.
No, not with the family and kids. No.
So I did sometimes. When I know when the football games came, he says, "Can you find me some girls? Get me some girls." And I asked him if I could take my girls along. He said, "Sure." So I'd take Sis, and we worked out out by the Space Needle that was different then, and we worked there during a football game. We worked the Thanksgiving Day because we went to Mills that evening for dinner.
Oh, and you probably got paid more because it was a holiday?
No,
you didn't?
We got so much. Sister got a check of her own, and I got one. Well, then the girls had that extra money to spend,
And then you had your own car, too, at that time. Do you remember what kind of car you had?
Whatever we had, I had. He had the truck.
Oh, okay.
And then I'd drive to Renton and work there. Usually Friday nights I had to work in Renton. Because I took care of that stadium for many years. Yeah, if there's anything going, I had to get a crew. And he'd send the food out.
Is that also where you had
football?
The box with the money, or was that just Seattle Center?
No, I'd come from home and go to Renton. I'd be there, and he'd send a truck out with all these things.
Oh.
They had their own delivery truck or something. They brought the food, the money box, and whatever else I had to have. And then we'd get it all set up and get everything all ready, and I'd have, if I could have the boys, I sometimes had 2 boys doing the selling as hustlers in the stadium. They go around where the people were.
I bet you were his best worker. You probably could have asked for a lot more money, and he probably would have paid you.
Oh, well, I never asked for anything, but he always sent me money for gas.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's the least he could have done.
He'd always send me gas money.
Well, that's good. I bet he would have paid you more had you asked.
Yeah, but I didn't.
But you didn't.
Because, he'd reach in his pocket, see what he had for money. Girlie, he says, "Will you get me 6 girls for Saturday?" And he'd give me whatever he had, $2, $3 or whatever. I'd go get the girls that he needed and send them where they were supposed to go.
But then he paid them separately.
Oh yeah, this was just for me to, and he was paying me as it was in the first place.
Oh, well, that's good.
Because I was still working on my 8-hour job.
Well, that's good. Well, he should.
Yeah.
Because you were like supervising. You were doing more than just working. You were supervising other people.
Yeah. So I did that for a long time. If he wanted me to do it, I did.
And then sometimes you helped Mill at where she worked.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was in.
Was that later?
The bank.
Was that later?
Yeah. I had quit Boeing's then. I thought 18 years.
That's a long,
pretty good.
long time.
But then the people kept calling me to work. And if they needed me here, they'd call and ask if I wouldn't come.
And you were already in your 60s by then.
Yeah.
Right?
I even worked at Bethlehem Steel. I went up there, worked in their dining room, and I didn't even know where it was the first time I went out there.
But they just heard from word of mouth that you were a good worker.
Yeah, someplace they must have got. And then, of course, I run that little coffee shop down on 4th Avenue for several years for him. And he told me I got the nicest recommendation when I got the, anytime I wanted a job, he'd find me. I was always welcome to work for him. I picked beans.
Yeah.
That was during the war. They were begging for people to come and help harvest, you know.
Between
So Max and Mill, and they were all going to be these people, families were going to go out there.
in Kent?
Yeah, and out that way. You know what was.
Yeah.
So we went out. Well, the men lasted one day. And I picked beans, so I kept on picking. And you know, I didn't do too bad. I got 72 cents for one of those hampers. And boy, I didn't fool
I
around.
think you made $22 a day when
Yeah.
Sister was helping you.
I had a sister with me. Georgie
She
took care
living
of the
at a
boys.
canning place in Kent, too.
And I got a little thing that I pinned on my belt. Each one gave me 72 cents. And believe you me, I was out there, but he took me to work before he went to work. And I could make like $20 to $23 a day. That was good.
Serious money.
Yeah. So, boy, I picked beans till after school started. And then they wanted me back at Boeing's. So I thought, well,
How much an hour were you getting at Boeing?
the most I ever got was 2 1/4.
Who was the lady that you carpooled with that left her slip?
Oh, Ann Hagen.
Oh,
She died
Or she
years
dropped
ago.
it in the parking lot and then...
Well, she didn't have time to put it on. So when we run to, she left the car and we'd run across the road and hurry and get in the cafeteria, she'd dropped it on the way. And the girls that come behind us saw the slip and they picked it up and they figured it belonged to somebody, and sure enough it was Ann Hagen.
But she was too afraid to say it was hers?
You know, she didn't like to, but she did.
Oh, she did, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a loser slip.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, I tell you, we worked hard, but I could have had worked 7 days a week, I think, if I wanted to. But
And it was Bold. Was he the one that ran what you were working at Seattle Center that time? Or was it... Oh, no, that was the... is that the Fisher family?
yeah, when I worked during the World's Fair, well, they had the flour mill, I think. I thought they were Belshaw Brothers or something, I forget now.
So it wasn't the Fisher family.
You know, but they made pancake mix and all that kind of stuff.
And it was a bakery that you were working at?
During the World's Fair, we had the sold donuts, all kinds of fancy donuts. We had places out in the ground and around. Yeah.
And that's where you had to take the money in the box and bring it somewhere.
Yeah, oh, the fair kept us busy. I take the money box out, it had $50 in it. And they gave me the combination for the safe. You know,
See, they would never do that now. I mean, a worker would never have, but they trusted you. That's amazing.
Yeah. So I'd go down, undo it, take the $50 out, that empty box, put the full one in, turn it down, open the door, lock it again, walk down the basement, and I carried these boxes. I wouldn't do it today.
No, it'd be too dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I went out and picked change, brought a $50 box out to the girls and took the full one back. And I had different places where I had to go and do that.
So you finally just quit working altogether. How old were you? Do you remember? You're probably almost 70, maybe?
Yeah.
That time you just said, that's it, I'm not,
Yep.
I'm done.
Because then we retired, see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. At 74, I think, was the year we were going to go south. Or, well, that was the year I think I had my gallbladder attacked or something. I had that out, so we didn't go anyplace that year. I think I worked till all through 73, and then I quit. And see, I started working during the war. And I thought, well, that was funny, you know. So I looked out and I couldn't see across the street, so we didn't go anyplace. And we couldn't, Max didn't come home till morning.
And then that night, or the next night, Grandpa had to go work at the power company,
Yep.
right?
He went to work that night.
And what time did he have to be at work?
12 o'clock. But he walked in the middle of the street. So, and he didn't have that far to go.
About how many blocks do you think?
Oh, I think about 3 blocks or 4. And you're just walking across the bridge and the power company was right there.
But still, you couldn't see. I mean, if he hadn't had the lights.
Well, the street light was on, but you wouldn't see worth, you know, very good. But you could see the light in the snow, you know. And he walked in the middle of the street.
And then you were telling me about a story about a man that was out in his car, and the car stalled because the storm.
Yeah. It blew snow in those side holes.
Oh yeah.
Into
And
the
he had
motor.
a small child, his wife and child.
Yeah. The boy was 7 years old.
And he left the car thinking he'd find, or they all left,
Yeah.
thinking they could walk.
They figured that they could walk because he knew where he was. Well, when he got out to walk in that stormy, it wasn't so easy, but he found a fence. But his wife and child died before he got to the fence. And he left them, and he thought he knew where he left them. And it just took your breath away. It was so bad.
Because it's just so cold,
Yeah,
so windy.
but the wind was so bad, too. And he walked around on the feeling of the fence, hanging on, until he got to a barn. And that's what saved him.
And then he just stayed in the barn.
Yeah, and then they went looking for them, but of course he knew they were dead. Yeah. A jig so that they could make a true, you know,
Oh, that
thing you mean.
Oh yeah, for Boeing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, aileron. Yeah.
What part of the airplane
It's
was it for?
stabilizer in the wing.
Okay.
They got the big ones sticking up, and then they got the smaller ones to balance it.
Those little flaps?
Yeah, yeah, that's what it is.
And you designed the piece that.
No, I built a jig to turn them out straight.
Yeah, because they weren't true.
So you
They
could
weren't
make
true, no.
every one
And you got to
identical.
be having
They put
just so.
The backbone has those ribs on it. They're small, bigger and bigger, you know, but I think I saw them on it. Then you put them in a thing. Then they'd hold them by hand and try to, that's not good. I made a thing that put them inside and I could button up like a
A
boat.
metal and just
And then I cut lightning holes we get solder, or well, 75% in there. It can't go no place. Then you go,
same every time.
oh yeah, it's true every time.
So they were trying to make each piece by hand
Yeah.
without
Yeah, without
Yeah.
a jig, yeah.
without
Without a
a
jig.
template.
It had to be true.
Yeah,
didn't it?
sure. Yeah. So it'd be twisting. It's like you know, he designed it so every piece would go in there exactly right.
Oh, right, yeah.
And they could.
Weld and
Yeah,
So
It was held in
building
place.
this by
Yeah.
hand like that.
Okay.
that thing that held us here with the piano hinge in the bottom, you could fold up like a book and pull it down or tighten the wing nut. You could,
Then
well,
tack it.
in them openings there. Yeah, well, 75% of in the jig.
So do you think that's what they're still doing
And
today?
everyone is-
Probably.
oh yeah, they made jigs that went sent to Wichita and all that stuff. You know, I didn't get anything for it, I left.
So you were there for like 5 or 6 months.
Yeah, about
Right.
5 months maybe.
Okay.
So I had my electrical cards, I went downtown.
Went back to
I knew I was
work.
going to go down here anyway.
Did you have an electrical card from the Midwest?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I was a turbine operator in Minnesota.
But he had to belong to Union.
Sure.
So
1935.
I thought from there you went to the shipyards.
Yeah, you did.
Well, during the war, yeah.
During the war.
I was in the shipyard for
Then electric.
5 years during that, and I went uptown.
And then you went downtown and worked
The shipyard is marine
When the
wire.
war ended, you went downtown.
What?
I think when the war ended.
That's right. I went downtown.
Do you remember the name of the company that you worked for?
Well, I worked for Cochran, or Agate Electric first.
Okay.
They did the prison that, I didn't know Agate, he died. And I worked there 9 years. Then I went to Northwest Electric, Engineering Electric, for them for about 8 years. Then I went to Cochran, that's the biggest one now.
Yeah, I remember Cochrane.
Then I went for O'Leary,
How long were you at Cochrane?
about 8 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
For some reason,
And what happened there,
I thought you were at some place for a long time, but you
Yeah.
weren't. I mean,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
20 years, but you were never at any place for 20 years.
And then George quit, and Mill quit, Max quit.
Max quit before I did, I think.
I think Max was the first to retire,
Yeah.
wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. Didn't we have a retirement
Yeah.
party for him? I remember that.
I forget where, but it was someplace.
Yeah, I'll never forget their anniversary party when she showed up with curlers in her hair.
Yeah.
Remember that? It was their 25th wedding anniversary,
Yeah.
and Mill thought she was just coming over for
on Sunday afternoon because she's going to go to work Monday, so she had to wash and put her hair in curlers so she could take them out before she went to bed, you know.
And here she walks in the door, and we got cake, and we're all there. And
But then they went home to get dressed up. Well, Max didn't. He come in just to, well, he was clean and all that, but so.
he has work clothes on. Yeah, she was pretty surprised when she walked in the door. I remember that. We were laughing. Oh, she's got her curlers in her hair.
And after Max retired, Mill was still working. We'd have to go down and get her car for her in the morning and drive up there.
Yeah, I remember that. He
So
retired first, and she
I run
kept
some wire down and
working.
put a three-way switch, you know.
Yeah, well, of course, it wasn't like it is now. You
No.
know, I'd get up in the morning and it'd be dark,
Oh, yeah.
and they'd be still asleep,
Yeah.
and I'd turn the yard light on and go out to the garage and back the car out, and it was pitch dark.
I had three ways on
Because
that.
I
You
left-
turn it on in the house.
got up at
And when you get in
4:20.
the car to back out, you roll window
And I tried to
shut
get
it
to
off.
work by 5, but it didn't take me long to drive to Boeing's. And I'd get in there, so I clocked in before